illnesses that stop you in your tracks. Iredell Health System will be by your side. Learn more at iredellhealth.org.
For over 57 years, Nelson Royals has been serving the Lake Norman, Mooresville, Statesville, and surrounding counties. Nelson Royals has work in Western clothing and over 4,000 boots and shoes in stock. Brands like Ariat, Rocky, Justin, Durango, Tony Lama, Red Wing, Thorogood, Skechers, Hey Dude, and many more. Check them out at nelsonroyals.com.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
And welcome to All Things Saine here on WSIC. Glad to be with you on this Monday afternoon, our new time at 3 o'clock. Hope you're enjoying that. Was talking to some folks earlier today. I'm up in Raleigh for a bunch of different meetings and talking to some fans of the show who listen to me on the podcast and asked the question, can we hear you live? I said, yep, you absolutely can, 3 o'clock. So all worked out good, and hopefully they're tuned in, dialed into that WSIC website or the app. You can find us there. But if you can't catch us live, I know many of you listen to the podcast, so we always love for you to do that as well. We got all the texts. You can catch us on the YouTubes, the podcast, everywhere that you find those, you can find us, guarantee it. So anyway, busy weekend. I hope your Valentine's Day went well. Your significant other was pleased with whatever it was you did for them. I'm a romantic, so I with a little procedure, outpatient procedure. Just kidding. My wife made me go do it. So I guess I got out on that one. We celebrated on Saturday. But here's a pro tip for you. We learned this when she and I were dating in college, and maybe the boyfriend didn't plan very well. Turns out, if you don't book your time at your favorite restaurant on Valentine's Day, just something you can consider. If you like wings, you like chicken, you like fries, maybe a cold beer, I'm just saying you might show up at Hooters. They don't have a line on Valentine's Day, which we made kind of our annual tradition. We didn't do it this year, obviously, because the anesthesia would not have mixed well with the beer and wings, but where we just kind of joke about it. This is what we do. And then we go out to somewhere nice on a different date when it's not so crowded. Great for the restaurants. I know it's a big day for you all, so don't want to take away. In trouble finding that special restaurant, that reservation you need on Valentine's Day, just remember, there's always Hooters, Waffle House. That also works, depending on how well your significant other will take that. So, but I am in Raleigh today. Kind of an odd week. We've got the possibility of another snowmageddon. Could get, probably not, but it could get wild. I saw one graph today that said in the Raleigh area, at least, it could get to 7.5 inches of snow, which would be, basically total chaos and shutdown if it was something like that. I don't believe that's going to be the case. Though, hey, look, I can be right 50% of the time too. But who knows? We'll see. But it has had the effect of shutting down a lot of meetings and things that would happen this week in Raleigh, just getting ahead of it, because you got to remember, legislators travel from all ends of the state. We've got one legislator, a good friend of mine, who literally is within 5 other state capitals he can get to quicker than he can to Raleigh. So he's got, I think it's like a 5.5, 6-hour drive to Raleigh every time they come into session. Our folks out on the coast face the same thing. They've got a ways to go to Raleigh. You think of Raleigh, in our area, we don't think of Raleigh being in the center of the state, but it's practically in the center of the state. Give a couple hours of travel. But when you're coming from those far reaches, it's not close. And so legislators, to be proactive and to know that it's still kind of slow at the legislative building. Things are ramping up. Of course, we got a new speaker, Speaker Destin Hall. He got elected in January. Those caucus elected him, I think, November, December. And he's doing well. They're off to a good start, but it takes a little bit of time in order for the legislator. They'll hear a couple. And if you're somebody who's thinking about running for office, they broadcast online now on YouTube, and you can check the calendar at ncleg.gov to see when committee meetings are happening. And look, if you're thinking about running for state house or state senate, I would strongly advise you to watch some of these committee meetings. They're kind of session ramp up as a basically teach, because you get people every session. So they basically kind of teach what these committees are about. And it's pretty interesting. It would be great if school kids could spend the time tuning into that. Problem is schedule a lot of time. The committee meetings meet sometimes late in the afternoon or even sometimes at night. But more importantly, they kind of bounce around on committee meeting times. So you kind of have to watch for it. But you can learn a lot about how your state government works. And if you're somebody, like I say, considering one day running for office, you kind of get to know what you be getting yourself into, and you get to learn cool things about what is capable of the legislature, maybe what's not capable of the legislature. So again, just another pro tip for you if that's something you're thinking about. But it also effectively means that a lot of the meetings that in Raleigh this week, because of possible snow and the fact that people have to travel far and wide to get here, things may not be happening, may not be cooking this week. Doesn't matter because I pulled into town here from coming from the west as I left our broadcast area, coming in last night, hearing about potential snow, and then saw a blurb on Twitter that hey, doesn't matter. The protesters are still going to be in Raleigh. Promise you that. And they are coming to town today. I think the protest probably happening right now. So there's a real possibility that none of those folks are tuning in and listening right now. Might be the only ones in North Carolina that are not, but it's just not exactly the target audience that maybe this goes after. And I don't know that they would like your host too much, but anyway, they're assembling on the Capitol grounds, the old Capitol grounds, and starting their circle and chants. And I saw one person dressed up like a mariachi band person, whatever, I don't know. Try to be culturally sensitive, but that's what it puts me in the mind of. And many other protesters. Though it says, according to the Raleigh News Observer, that hundreds, right now, this is on their website, hundreds gather in downtown Raleigh to protest GOP challenge of North Carolina Supreme Court race. Well, not saying I'm exactly great at math. I was the appropriations chairman. Hundreds might be a stretch. Maybe by the time they all gather, maybe while we're on air, they'll get to hundreds. I saw maybe 60 or 70 folks at best, and as people were coming in. But look, you don't want to read the headline of 10 people show up to protest, and they've got a stock photo, or no, I'm sorry, it's a live photo from today, but it's where they pack. Yeah, hey, could you gather for the picture? And so the 20 people you see in the picture probably was about the number of people that were there, but they've got all kind of different messages on their signs that they're carrying and doing the protest, which is, look, it's America. Everyone has the right to do so. Not knocking on that, but if you get in and around Raleigh for any length of time, there's generally either a protest or something going on, and it's been that way since I got to the legislature in 2011. I've left the legislature. It's still that way. It's still happening, but it'll be interesting to see tonight on the local news how they get those tight camera angles. It says hundreds of demonstrators rally at the North Carolina State Capitol on Monday, February 17th. The rally, organized by Common Cause, not a conservative group, protested Republican State Supreme Court candidate Jefferson Griffin's challenge of 65,000 votes from the November election. So that's going on. That will make some headlines this week for an otherwise maybe non-headline type of week at the legislature. But we'll cover what's happening. Coming up next, in the next segment, we've got Representative Harry Warren. He's working on a number of bills, including stopping that clock change in the spring and fall. We'll talk to him about that and some of the things that he's working on when we come back after these very important messages here on WSIC.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with more All Things Saine on WSIC. Local starts here.
Well, there comes a new week and a cold week at that. Winter temperatures start to come back. Plenty of sunshine. Temperatures only around 50.
Good work. Got about 2 minutes. I'll let you know when we have Representative
Low 50s for your Tuesday with increasing clouds, but tracking another impactful winter storm likely on the way to the Carolinas as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. We'll fine-tune the details of what we can expect around Lake Norman as we go throughout our Monday. More to come. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Listen, save, enjoy. The WSIC app, available now in your app store.
Here
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Thursday, February 20th is a fundraiser for Soul to Soul's Connection at Rio 150 in Mooresville. Eat out on Thursday with Rio's Mexican food menu, and a portion of all proceeds go directly to veteran and first responder mental health problems. Your participation will help stop the stigma. Eat out at Rio 150 Mexican restaurant in Mooresville on Thursday and help raise funds for veteran and first responder mental health programs. Join the Statesville Chamber of Commerce on Thursday, February 20th for a night of celebration and recognition with the annual Sage Awards for Statesville area growth and excellence. The event honors individuals and organizations that have made significant impacts on the community. The Sage Awards begin at 6 p.m. Thursday at the Statesville Civic Center. Visit statesvillechamber.org for your tickets. Saturday night, Fortune 5 returns to the 500 Club in Statesville. Fortune 5 won the Battle of the Bands in 2024 and now bring their infectious energy to Statesville. Check out the Fortune 5 concert at 6 p.m. this Saturday at the 500 Club. Extreme Experience was founded with the goal of making the world's finest exotic cars accessible and to drive new Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and Porsches on the world-class racetracks. Extreme Experience provides the safest and most educational approach to drivers and passengers who wish to experience the thrill of the world's most exclusive cars. Book your Extreme Experience now at 866-273-7727 or visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for more information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
MuralFest 2025, presented by Window World, returns April 24th through the 27th in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Hear the Avett Brothers, Bonnie Raitt, The Dead South, Watch House, Wyatt Flores, I'm With Her, Leftover Salmon, The Warren Treaty, The Steel Drivers, and many more. For tickets, visit MuralFest.org.
From representing District 97 to representing your voice.
And it is a busy, busy week here in Raleigh.
This is All Things Saine.
And welcome back to All Things Saine here at WSIC. We do this every week on Mondays now from 3 to 4 p.m. Catching you up with what's happening in Raleigh, what's happening locally, statewide, and nationally. We'll talk about, we'll even talk about where's the gold. If you followed Twitter over the weekend, X, whatever you want to call it these days, if you're following social media, that's been a hot topic as well. I can't keep up with President Trump. He was at the Daytona 500. I did see him on television there, although that race took a little long to complete since they had all the weather and everything else going on. But literally just it's every minute that something's happening. But, Raleigh, things do go a little slower. And thank goodness, by the way, we're glad that sometimes if you've served in the House or Senate, you're kind of glad for at least a slightly slower pace than what the president's doing. But things happen all the time. And one of the people who work, I think, some of the hardest on issues, who's always just very quietly at work, working on a variety of different issues, is my friend, Representative Harry Warren. And Harry, welcome to the show, sir. Glad to have you on. You represent Rowan County. You've been a dear friend. You were there just a little bit earlier than I got to the legislature when I got appointed. And you've been a stalwart, just churning out good conservative policy, working very hard for the people in your district. And great to have you on the show, sir. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Jason. I appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, this show, like I told you, and I really just, legislators are real people, and they want to do a good job. And I say this about my Republican friends. I say it about my Democrat friends. Sometimes we have policy disagreements, but most go for the right reasons, and that's representing a point of view, but most importantly, representing the people in your district. And sir, you do a great job because they keep sending you back.
Thank you.
Well, I know you're working hard, and I'm not kidding when I say to the folks that are listening, Harry, you have over the years have been such a great person that other members rely on, and quite frankly, sometimes you do their homework too, because you're doing the research. I know you're very methodical. You want to have your facts right. It's just not what you want it to be. You get the facts, and then make decisions based on that. and you've been serving. Gosh, I guess you won your election in what, 2010, so you've been serving since 2011, and so you've been at the cusp of everything going on. And did I get that year right? I think I got it right. Maybe you went in a little earlier.
No, it was 2010 election and began in January 2011.
Okay, memory hasn't faltered me yet. So, but you've worked on just a variety of issues over the years, and have a very pragmatic approach to what you're working on, and we'll talk about a couple of the bills that you filed. It's early in the session. I understand that I talked to some of your colleagues earlier today that things aren't there's not a lot going to be going on this week. Or are you coming to Raleigh anyway? Because I know you're here a lot and working on those on research and working on bills. Are you staying at home and avoiding the snow, or you get to come up to Raleigh this week?
But no, I'm actually about 100 years ago I came down here from up north. So snow is not a frightening event for me, so that doesn't deter me at all. But yes, I'll be in Raleigh tomorrow morning. I have an 8:30 meeting with some of our colleagues, and then if the insurance committee notices they're meeting today, I do have a bill that they were House Bill 53 that we were going to present. So I'll have to wait and see whether or not I stay over tomorrow, but I'll definitely be up there tomorrow.
Well, very good. I kind of had a feeling you might be one of the guys that one of the men and women that come to work anyway. But you also, your district's not as far, so it's not like you have to climb down a mountain to get here. But and you, like my wife, have a little bit more experience dealing with the snow than us folks who were born in North Carolina. We're not really good at it. I admit it. Leave it to the people who are good at it. But that's not me. So House Bill 53, we'll talk about that. Increase accident thresholds, safe driver plan. So that's going to the Committee on Insurance. It's got a ways to go. I see Judiciary one. It's got to go to Insurance. It's got to go to Finance, and of course everything goes to Rules. But what's that bill do? What are you working on?
Well, it's pretty self-explanatory, and it should be a very easy bill to move. It's simply a periodic adjustment that takes place, I think, probably every 5 to 8 years or so. It simply basically accounts for the inflation that affects the cost of automobile repairs and maintenance and things like that affect the classification of an accident. So it's really just an adjustment. So I don't anticipate any pushback on that, really.
But it's something that needs to be done, and kind of going back to my earlier comments, you work on a lot of the things that people may not notice. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're sexy issues. They don't grab headlines, but it's the work that happens in a legislative body, and quite frankly, that's a lot of the work that you and your colleagues in the House and Senate work on. It's not headline grabbers all the time, but it is things that you to keep state government running, to keep things updated, to keep things working and running. You got to do those things too, but you also get to file some bills that might grab a headline. I know you're working on one, House Bill 12, which I'm a huge fan of. Observe standard time all year long. Doing away with this clock change, which kills me. I'd filed, and you and I talked about it several times, a bill about daylight savings time. I'm agnostic. I mean, you had to pick one to set to, and you've chosen to set it to standard time. Have you got any feedback about that yet, or are people just not quite heard about it? I know you just filed it early in February, but I know that will be a popular bill. Have you got any feedback so far?
Well, locally, I did have one fellow who's a real strong proponent of daylight savings time. Of course, my understanding is he likes to golf after work. But my preference is to stick with standard time, because that's based on the natural position of the sun relative to the earth. And it results in having, as you know, brighter mornings. So I would prefer that children, school-age students, are waiting for their buses in the daylight rather than the dark of the morning. Because if you stick with daylight savings time, a lot of places across the country, in the eastern part of the country, the Midwest, don't see daylight in the morning till 8 o'clock, or some places even as late as 8:30 in the morning. So I think it poses a serious hazard, particularly in this particular instance, for children waiting on the bus. And in fact, in the research I've done on this, Jason, there was an incident in Florida, just one of them that comes to mind, where some children were actually killed while waiting for a bus.
Well, and good reasons to file it the way you filed it. And like I say, I'm kind of agnostic. When that time changes, it literally takes me 2 weeks in the fall and in the spring to really adjust to it. My sleep gets off. It just, I'm grumpier. I know, which is maybe a matter of degrees, but I'm grumpier. I think our bodies just would like to keep it. It's like taking a trip to California and back, except for you don't. When I take those trips, I kind of pretty quickly readjust because I'm used to the time at home. So once I get back, it maybe takes me a day, but when you change that clock and your whole schedule is kind of upended, people don't like that. And I know that you'll get a lot of fans of this bill. Yeah, some people may say, well, I prefer daylight savings time. Golf's a good reason, but you got a really good reason too. And protecting kids while they're at the bus stop is not a bad one there. But I know you'll get a lot of feedback on that, and hopefully you'll get that to success. I know that Marco Rubio, who is now our Secretary of State, but when he was in the U.S. Senate, he had filed a bill about setting the 1 clock. I think he did daylight savings time. Of course, he's in Florida, so maybe that's why he preferred it a little closer to the equator, get a little more sunshine from the Sunshine State. But nevertheless, I wish you luck on that. You've got another one, House Bill 11, no tax on tips, overtime, bonus pay. I would think in North Carolina that would be very popular. And you're a former human resource guy. What do you think the reaction will be to that?
Well, so far, all the reaction I've gotten to that has been positive and supportive of the bill. I had one fellow ask me, he said, if tips are considered compensation, do I have to start keeping track of who I've tipped at restaurants and send them a 1099? Because I would be essentially paying them their compensation. But it's of course being facetious. But no, that's been a very positive response to that bill so far. I'm looking forward to that one moving.
Well, I do too. Look, it helps people who work for a living, right? I mean, these are the folks out there serving us in the restaurants, Uber drivers and cab drivers and so forth. Mm-hmm. I like to tip if someone gives me great service. I want to reward them for that, because it encourages more great service. And I also realize that they're not getting paid, huge amounts. So it's good for them. It's good for the economy. It helps people get a leg up. So I applaud you for filing it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think it's a good bill with the overtime part on there. We're trying to encourage more productivity, and we just felt like that would be a good way to address that issue.
Well, and before we go, we've got about 40 seconds, but I want to highlight, you're also chairman of the Oversight Committee, which does deep dives into state government, how things are working and sometimes not working. So I want to applaud you for your work on that. We'll certainly get you back on the show if you're willing. I know you stay busy, but I'm glad that you gave us some time today. Just wanted to let people know, there's a guy named Harry Warren out there working very hard at the legislature and always want to touch base with those working hard. So appreciate you coming on today.
Well, again, I appreciate the invitation and look forward to seeing you around the campus this year.
We'll see you soon. Take care.
Take care.
Local starts here.
All right, can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right. I have Representative Warren off the phone, and we'll get started on the third segment soon.
Sounds perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Meteorologist Chase Myers.
Want to play a game with me and Dad?
Mommy's not feeling good.
You need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with Dayquil VapoCool. It's Dayquil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
Come on, honey. Let's let mommy rest.
You guys are amazing. And so is Dayquil VapoCool.
Dayquil VapoCool, the vaporizing daytime coughing, aching, fever, power through your day medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
I occasionally have nerve discomfort in my hands, so the things I love to do...
Let's play something, Grandma.
...became difficult as I got older.
If you have occasional stabbing and burning in your hands and feet, try Nervive Nerve Relief. Nervive's clinically studied dose of alpha-lipoic acid reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days with continued daily use. Say yes to healthy nerves with Nervive Nerve Relief. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Are you in constant pain, under constant stress? Just need a moment away? Repeat after me. Serenity Now Massage Therapy. SerenityNowMassageandWellness.com with locations in Mooresville and Cornelius.
Bob McIntosh here with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Serving this community has been a collective passion of our law firm since 1997. We offer the quality legal services and results you would expect from a large downtown firm, but with a personal, community-focused approach right here at home. The McIntosh Law Firm, your local legal resource.
To learn more about the McIntosh Law Firm, visit McIntoshLawFirm.com.
It ain't easy being number one, but we make it look good.
WSIC.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. In early January, the U.S. Surgeon General under President Biden announced a link between alcohol and 7 types of cancer, and that had a measurable impact on at least one non-alcoholic spirits business.
We've seen a huge growth in our sales.
Runway Chang is the CEO of Abstinence Spirits.
Our top-selling SKU, our Blood Orange Aperitif, is actually 2 to 3 times our volume from even the holiday season in December.
And that's not typical, even the typical dry January, which is the peak month for the business. Researchers have found that young adults who abstain even for part of the month are more likely to moderate their alcohol consumption over the rest of the year. Spread across age groups, the market potential is enormous.
93% of people who buy non-alcoholic products also buy alcohol. So we're really, rather than seeing people who are abstaining in total, we have people who are, making moderation choices.
Tracy Jonke, Bloomberg Radio.
The #1 station for people who say we're their favorite station.
WSIC.
From the house floor to your radio dial.
Glad you joined us if you're joining us live.
It's All Things Saine.
Love talking to everyone in and around the lake.
WSIC. Local starts here.
And welcome back to All Things Saine here on WSIC. It is Monday afternoon, and we are in our new time slot. This is our second week here at the 3 to 4 p.m. slot, and we're glad to be here. They approached me about switching to Mondays. One, it works out great for my schedule, and it helps us start the week. And honestly, trying to recap everything that happens over the weekend and look ahead at what's going to happen this week, God only knows. With Trump in office, it has been a whirlwind. I don't know if you watched the Daytona 500 or not. It was a little tough to watch it because it was elongated because of the weather. But it was pretty awesome to see the president come in. Of course, he did it back in 2020, I think it was. But to see him come in the Beast, lead the field, and kind of, quite frankly, do a victory lap. It was if you're a fan, and I like Trump 1.0, it's fine. Of course, I voted for him. I'm a Republican. You know that if you listen to the show. But 2.0 has been so much more fun, and I love the fact that Elon Musk is involved. I know there's some liberal tears being cried out there in the hinterlands that don't like it. Matter of fact, I think some of those folks are right now at the old Capitol, about a block and a half away from where I'm at right now, protesting something. We'll talk about that a little bit. I should have asked Representative Harry Warren about the protest. Obviously, he didn't make it for the protest, I was still out at Walmart getting his cardboard and his markers, but nevertheless, there's a few people out there. I don't know if it's quite the hundreds that the newspaper's reporting, but there's a few out there, and they were growing. To be fair, as I walked into the building, they were walking up to protest, so they were adding to. It turns out that there's maybe an army of professional protesters. I wouldn't suggest that they all are, but I would say that Raleigh is fabulous for generating protest on a dime, whether it's for the Palestinians, whether it's for the Supreme Court race here in North Carolina, which I think that's what they're protesting today. Though I did see some mixed messaging. I did say there's a man dressed as a mariachi player or traditional garb, whatever you want to say. To me, I think mariachi band guy, but nevertheless, he was obviously on immigration and probably some of the deportations. I couldn't quite read the sign, but he was out in the corner, and they will, peacefully. They, by and large, at least most times, are pretty peaceful, and it's the right to do so. That is what one of the things great about this country. Unlike Germany, again, if you were following over the weekend, they're literally putting people in jail for mean, maybe sometimes even ignorant tweets. But I always figure you got a right to be ignorant. If we've got a right to disagree. You can post some pretty dumb things on social media. Now it is up to the platforms to kind of regulate those as well. But sending the Polizei to come to your house and arrest you for some of the things you post online, probably a little excessive, which comes to the crux of what Vice President Vance, the message he was delivering last week in Europe, and telling the Europeans, hey, look, we appreciate free speech in America. We hope that you would too, instead of sliding into this dystopian world where it's basically thought crime to think something different from someone else. And they've only one prescribed way to think and act. And I think Americans, by and large, whether you're left, right, in the middle, don't appreciate limiting people and their conversations. There are responsibilities, but at the same time, we still appreciate that in America. And look, no bigger proponent than the president, the vice president, and not wagging their finger at Europe, but saying, hey, look, we should really be taking a deep look at some and have some deep thoughts and some great conversations about where do we see the free world. We don't want to mimic the old East German way of doing things, or the Russian communist Russia way of doing things, or China. We appreciate dissension, but lots going on. Like I say, over the weekend, you just can't keep up with it. And I've told you this before, I have been locked onto my phone in between meetings and in between calls and things that I do professionally. Just watching my X account, and I watch a guy, Mario Nawfal, Nawfal. Look him up. He is on top of it. I don't know if he's got an army of folks that do the work and help him do the work, but his tweets are pretty spot on, and they're in their own time and seeing what's happening. But over the weekend, and it might have been this morning, I say over the weekend, I followed it all weekend, but about probably 12 hours ago or so, he had reposted, Elon Musk talking about it would be cool to do a live video walkthrough of Fort Knox in Kentucky. Hopefully there's a lot of gold there. Following requests for Doge to audit Fort Knox, it's starting to look like it may actually happen. This is according to Mario. He says, Elon even said it would be cool to do a live video walkthrough of Fort Knox. Just because someone tells you it's there, okay, would like to take you at your word, but this thing hasn't been audited, I think, since the 70s, something like that. And Fort Knox is supposed to be holding approximately 147.3 million ounces of gold, which is just over half of the U.S. Treasury's stored bullion. But why not lay eyes on it and let the American people know that yes, it's really there. Yeah, we understand it's under lock and key. It's very well protected, as it should be. But why not? Why not tell us? Show us. Because if you showed us, we could see it live, then you would know it's there. You see it with your own eyes. It's been interesting to see the commentary on X, on social media, the approach is, I mean, look, people want transparency. It's one of the worst things in the world when people don't trust their government. They want to trust their government. I think most of them do. But, face value is just that. It's just face value. What if you knew for sure that it was there? And again, Elon Musk has been all over the airwaves. The haters are out there because they don't like his Department of Government Efficiency, which, if you follow, is something that Bill Clinton and Al Gore talked about. Barack Obama created the office; they've renamed it, but really and that started from just trying to get the healthcare website right after Obamacare was passed, and we had the debacle, if you remember, of just poor planning. And if anybody can mess it up, government could, and we did. And they said, hey, we got to get this right. People are depending on it. So it's not a new idea to just expect that Americans, are at least getting what they're paying for. Me, I shouldn't say I don't mind paying taxes. I'm like everybody else. I'd like to keep more in my pocket, but I'd like to know that I get something of value for the taxes I pay, and then it makes it a little bit more tolerable. But if we're not getting the most efficient use of our dollars, if we're not getting confirmation of the things that our government tells us, remember the founders had a natural distrust of government. That's why they set it up the way they did. You've got the three equal branches, checks and balances. We don't have a fourth branch called the bureaucracy, which I think is the biggest rub that Elon is finding, is that's a friction point of the bureaucracy thinking they're more than they are. I love what Trump's doing through the executive orders, trying to reduce the size and scope of the federal government and working out efficiencies. This is, I think, part of the process, part of that needs to happen. But even just verifying that the gold is there, it's like a magic show. Sometimes I can show you, and then I know I'm being lied to. It's part of the nice trick. It's not a nice trick when we're talking about the Treasury of the United States of America. And I think it's something that people want to know. They're just, again, one of those things where you go, it's kind of easy to shoot that conspiracy down. If you think the gold's not there, we could just show you. What becomes odd is when there's pushback on someone actually showing you, and when people go, well, if you can't show me, then it maybe it doesn't exist, and then that leads to all sorts of places where people then start to doubt, and people then really do start to question. And again, I think it is healthy to question what your government does. Elected officials should be able to tell you with certainty why they're doing what they're doing, why it is they did what they did, and so. What is happening with Doge? It's changing the conversation. At lunchtime, I heard a CNN commentator, Scott Jennings, that is on regular. That's one of the few conservatives that end up on CNN, but had some pretty neat and interesting perspectives of how this 1 month of the Trump administration is going. Keep in mind, we're not even maybe we're at a full month now, right? 17th, sworn in on January 20th. So we're almost at that full month. And the lightning speed with which, the appointees, the cabinet have been approved. I think, don't say it enough, but good job by the Republican-controlled Senate. What our congressional people are working on. I saw Pat Harrigan, who's been on the show. He does really good. If you follow him on X, does updates, video, just raw, him taking his phone and giving you an update of what's happening and keeping you up to speed of what's really going on. And people expect that kind of transparency for at least for the last 4 years, but I'd even say prior to that. We haven't had that kind of transparency that we need. We're seeing a lot of it. So I do applaud those folks who are fighting to do that. But we'll talk more about it. This hour always goes fast, but I do appreciate you listening to All Things Saine here on WSIC. We'll be back right after this break.
Local voices, real stories. Join the conversation. 844-STUDIO-4. We'll be right back with more All Things Saine.
Well, there comes a new week and a cold week at that. Winter temperatures. Sunshine temperatures only around 50.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. We're in commercial, and we'll start the fourth segment shortly.
Okay. Sounds great.
February 20th is a fundraiser for Soul to Soul's Connection at Rio 150 in Mooresville. Eat out on Thursday with Rio's Mexican food menu, and a portion of all proceeds go directly to veteran and first responder mental health problems. Your participation will help stop the stigma. Eat out at Rio 150 Mexican Restaurant in Mooresville on Thursday and help raise funds for veteran and first responder mental health programs. Join the Statesville Chamber of Commerce on Thursday, February 20th for a night of celebration and recognition with the annual Sage Awards for Statesville area growth and excellence. The event honors individuals and organizations that have made significant impacts on the community. The Sage Awards begin at 6 p.m. Thursday at the Statesville Civic Center. Visit statesvillechamber.org for your tickets. Saturday night, Fortune 5 returns to the 500 Club in Statesville. Fortune 5 won the Battle of the Bands in 2024 and now bring their infectious energy to Statesville. Check out the Fortune 5 concert at 6 p.m. this Saturday at the 500 Club. Extreme Experience was founded with the goal of making the world's finest exotic cars accessible and to drive new Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and Porsches on the world-class racetracks. Extreme Experience provides the safest and most educational approach to drivers and passengers who wish to experience the thrill of the world's most exclusive cars. Book your Extreme Experience now at 866-273-7727 or visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for more information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Merlefest 2025, presented by Window World, returns April 24th through the 27th in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Hear the Avett Brothers, Bonnie Raitt, the Dead South, Watch House, Wyatt Flores, I'm With Her, Leftover Salmon, the Warren Treaty, the Steel Drivers, and many more. For tickets, visit merlefest.org.
Here we go.
Local stories, local leadership. This is All Things Saine on WSIC. Local starts here.
And welcome back to All Things Saine here at WSIC. Great to have you on this Monday afternoon. We do this every Monday from 3 until 4 in our new time slot, but you can always catch us on the app, catch us at your where you get your favorite podcast. You can watch live video. I promise you, behind me, you're looking at bare walls. There are photographs and artwork and my wife's favorite possession, my Doug Williams jersey. Doug was the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Turns out he won that Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos and my wife's favorite quarterback, John Elway. So that's not allowed in my house. So it's good that I have an office here in Raleigh that I can hang it. So when I am in Raleigh doing the broadcast here, you can see that Doug Williams jersey. Hopefully I've got a place to go home to after mentioning that wonderful, wonderful Super Bowl. I like the Super Bowl we saw this year. I wasn't a big fan. Wasn't a whole lot to say about that. Watching the Chiefs just kind of stink it up. As a Redskins fan, a little hard for me to pull for the Eagles, but also kind of hard for me to pull for the Chiefs. So I didn't have a lot of vested interest in that game anyway. But I promise you, at some point there'll be some decorations behind me on this wall. They did not just throw me into a room with nothing on it. It just happens that the wall behind me was awaiting all of my prized possessions, including that Redskins jersey. It'll get there soon, I promise. But hey, still lots going on. One of our listeners just sent this to me. And kind of concerning. This is a Delta Flight 4819 operated by a regional subsidiary has been involved in an accident at Toronto Pearson Airport. The aircraft, a CRJ 900, shockingly is upside down on the runway. Of course, it's in Canada, so there's plenty of snow on the runway. How it would turn upside down, don't know. But the emergency response is underway. The airport is closed. So there's 8 injuries, but it didn't say anything about fatality. So fingers crossed, no one's hurt too bad. And it would be weird hanging upside down because I imagine if you're belted in, as you would be before you take off or land. I don't know if this is on takeoff or landing, but anyway, somehow, some way. This aircraft is upside down on the runway. And there's pictures on X, and I'm sure some of the news sites are covering it. But let's pray for those folks. Make sure that they're okay, and hopefully if you fly regularly, like I do, I don't really think about those things. And what happened at DCA was just there the week before when that happened at Ronald Reagan Airport, where the military helicopter aircraft crashed, touched the commercial airliner, which ended in disaster for all the passengers. Hopefully, this is not the case. Doesn't appear to be, but do appreciate the tip. Trying to keep you up to date on what's going on. And speaking of which, I told you it's a little slow this week in Raleigh because of the impending weather. If it should happen, you never know in North Carolina, because we live on that kind of line there where it could be a lot of something, or it could be a lot of nothing. But as we often do, when I was driving up into Raleigh last night, saw that they had salted roads in different places. I'm sure a lot of that's still going on today, just in preparation. As I remind folks, as we were talking with Representative Harry Warren, and my wife, who grew up part of her life in Connecticut and Albany, New York, and other places in between. We Southerners were just not that good at driving in ice. Of course, she's really good at driving in ice, because a lot of times we get snow, but it's usually then covered with ice. And a lot of times we just get ice and sleet. And so I prefer to not be in it, as I hope that many of you will follow my lead in that. You're welcome to do what you want to do. Just saying, there's a lot of other drivers out there that aren't very well prepared for this. So things are being canceled this week in Raleigh, as there's nothing pressing or pending that couldn't come back and maybe double up the next week and take care of. But this is an interesting headline posted today at the Raleigh News Observer. It says North Carolina Republicans are moving to block Attorney General Jeff Jackson from suing Trump over executive orders. And so state Democrat leaders ramp up their legal battles with President Donald Trump, some of their, lawfare, as Trump and others are calling it, over his executive actions. Republicans in the General Assembly are moving to block North Carolina's top lawyer from joining those fights. And, we live in a state that we've got divided government. We've got a Republican Senate, supermajority there, just one shy of a supermajority in the North Carolina House of Republicans. But then you've got a Democrat governor and a Democrat AG and other council state members kind of evenly divided there. So with this Democrat AG, Jeff Jackson, who had served in the Senate, and I know Jeff, nice guy, but he's obviously got his political bend, and some folks in the legislature have a different political bend. And what the article says, it says legislation is advancing in the North Carolina House in the coming weeks that would prevent Attorney General Jeff Jackson, who has already joined a number of other lawsuits challenging the legality of Trump's early actions, from participating in any litigation that seeks to invalidate Trump's executive orders. So if you look up the bill, it's House Bill 72. We'll follow this one because it is interesting. It was filed by Representative Keith Kidwell. He's the primary sponsor on that, as well as Blair Edens, Ben Moss, who have joined him there, and Wyatt Gable, a new member of the legislature, excuse me, who have been, they're watching these lawsuits being filed, trying to block the executive orders, finding kind of judge shopping, finding a judge that will then issue a stay or some order that would prevent Trump from doing what he wants to do. And the bill is it's the short title of it's AG Restrict Challenge to Presidential Executive Orders, EOs. And so with that, you will see how that plays out. If you were listening last week, you know that Representative Keith Kidwell was on the show. He's leading. He's half of the leadership of their Doge committee there in the House. The Speaker of the House, Destin Hall, decided, hey, maybe this Doge idea is something we can implement in North Carolina. Maybe we can squeeze out efficiencies. So we had Keith on the show last week. If you didn't catch it, really good interview. He was on the second half of the show. We had Representative Charlie Miller and Representative Reese Pirtle on the first half of the show, and then Representative Kidwell on the back side of the show at the bottom of the hour. And so Keith's a very thoughtful guy. They called him what was the bulldozer, because he does just plow through and hit issues head on. Little different style than me, and or maybe Representative Harry Warren that we had on earlier. But Keith's very committed and very dedicated to getting efficiencies out of government. I applaud him for that. But here's one where he says, "Look, our AG is maybe not acting with in what a majority of North Carolinian voters who voted for President Trump. And now we've got our Attorney General trying to oppose him in every way possible by filing on or signing on to these lawsuits in other blue states. We're not a blue state. At best, we're purple, and according to the legislature, or maybe leaning toward red. But and to our presidential and U.S. Senate candidates, we voted for Republicans, slightly red. Our state, we folks here elected Trump and want him to enact his agenda. Trump, the article says Trump's moved very quickly in the first few weeks of his second term to pursue his agenda through executive orders, signing more than 60 of them so far. Democratic state attorneys generals have moved just as fast to challenge those actions in court. And in many cases, they've succeeded in getting federal judges to temporarily block them from going into effect. Jackson has joined the other Democratic state attorneys general. It's not Republican attorney generals, all Democrats, in suing Trump over his executive order that sought to end birthright citizenship, his administration's efforts to freeze certain federal grants and other funding pending a review of spending, and the Department of Government Efficiency led by Elon Musk, and being granted access to the U.S. Treasury payment systems. As we're finding out, if you're following, this is me talking, if you're following what Elon is tweeting out on X, Doge has been working very hard. You can also follow that Twitter account or just go to the website. But so a lot's been happening, but with every action, there seems to be a reaction by these folks who are going to take it to court, trying to litigate and trying to block President Trump from enacting what he wants to do, which he is duly elected to do. And I think nobody's surprised at what they've seen. Maybe they're surprised at the speed at which it has been happening. I know I have. Like I say, it's been tough just to follow. However, again, most people want to see that. That's why they went to the polls. That's why they voted. It says, the article says, the lawsuits have alleged that Trump administration's policies violate the U.S. Constitution, federal law, yada 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 yada. But that going on, this new bill in the North Carolina House, filed by Representative Kidwell and others, is pretty short and straightforward. It's not often you get a one-page bill. It's not even a full page. It literally, if I count, the bill title, which is all caps and bigger letters, is about 4 lines of text, and then the actual bill itself, once you get past citing where it would go into law, the general statutes and so forth, is literally 2 paragraphs, section 1 and section 2. And it's just limitation on participation in certain litigation. And it just basically says that the General Assembly or any executive, basically the state enacted by, he can't go against acts by the General Assembly or any executive orders issued by the President of the United States. That's all it says. And it's pretty straightforward. You can look it up if you go to ncleg.gov. You'll always hear me reference that because I want you to go find it yourself, read it for yourself. But it's House Bill 72, and the intent is to limit the abilities of the Attorney General to keep joining these lawsuits, which are clearly driven by politics. And you could counter that. I get the other point of view that what President Trump is doing is driven by politics also. Well, it is the game of politics. But he is duly elected. Of course, the Attorney General is duly elected as well, so he'll have to answer to voters for that. They'll both be on the ballot. Well, I guess they both won't, but assuming he'll be on the ballot in 4 years. But nevertheless, that's something we'll watch. We'll see how that goes through. If the Republican, and surely Governor Stein will veto it. I would assume that, maybe not. But if that should happen, Republicans would need to get an extra vote to help override that veto because they are short one in the supermajority. But hey, we'll follow all that more for you. We do it every week. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week here on WSIC.
With your heating system, you need SHA